December has a way of making everything feel quieter than it should. Like the world is holding its breath. The year this happened, I was 28, newly divorced, and renting the upstairs of a 2-story house in a small Pennsylvania town that smelled like what leaves in chimney smoke. Snow hadn't stuck yet, but the cold had already settled into the bones of everything. I remember thinking that December always made my thoughts louder, and that year they were loud enough without the silence helping. The house belonged to an older woman named Marjorie, who lived downstairs. She was polite but distant, the kind of person who watched through the lace curtains and never waved first. I worked nights at a grocery distribution warehouse, loading trucks, so our schedules barely crossed. Most days I'd come home just before dawn, the sky gray and empty, Marjorie's lights already off. It was lonely, but I liked the routine. December meant overtime, and overtime meant I could finally catch up on bills. The first strange thing happened on December 3rd. I came home around 5:40 a.m., my hands numb from the cold and the metal of the loading dock. As I pulled into the driveway, I noticed Marjorie's basement light was on. It was never on. The basement windows were small and narrow, half buried under the ground, but the glow spilled onto the snowless dirt like a weak lantern. I paused with my car door open, listening. Nothing. Just the hum of the engine and the distant sound of a freight train. I told myself she probably forgot it on, and went inside. Inside, the house smelled different. Not rotten. Not exactly. Just sharp. Like bleach layered over something else. I shook it off and went upstairs. I didn't sleep well that morning. I kept dreaming I was back at work, stacking boxes that kept leaking dark water onto my gloves. Over the next week, small things started adding up. Packages appeared on the porch with no labels, just brown paper and twine, and they'd be gone by the time I got home. Marjorie's basement light stayed on every night. I heard her moving around at hours she never used to. Footsteps dragging slowly across the floor around midnight, then again around 3. Once, when I came home early because a truck broke down, I heard voices downstairs. More than one. They stopped as soon as I stepped inside. December 12th was when I knew something was wrong. It was my night off, and I was home around 9 p.m. Sitting on the edge of my bed, scrolling through my phone, when I heard a knock on the front door. Not loud, careful. 3 taps, evenly spaced. I froze. No one ever came by that late, especially in winter. I listened. The knock came again. Same pattern. I went to the top of the stairs and looked down. Marjorie was standing at the door, her back to me, shoulders tense. She opened it just a crack. I couldn't see who was on the other side, but I heard a man's voice, low and urgent. "I told you not here," Marjorie whispered. "I don't have anywhere else," the man said. His voice sounded tired, like he'd been crying or shouting earlier. "It's December. Please." She hesitated, then opened the door wider and let him in. I caught a glimpse of his face as he passed under the light. He looked about my age, unshaven, his eyes too wide, darting around like he expected someone to jump out at him. He noticed me on the stairs. For a split second, Our eyes met. His expression shifted from relief to fear. Marjorie followed his gaze and looked up at me. "Go back upstairs," she said flatly. "This doesn't concern you." I should have listened. Instead, I stood there, my heart pounding, and said, "Is everything okay?" She stared at me for a long moment, then smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Everything's fine. Just an old friend." The man didn't look like an old friend. He looked like someone who hadn't slept in days. I went back upstairs, but I didn't stop listening. The voices downstairs were muffled, but I heard the man crying. I heard Marjorie telling him to calm down, that he was safe now. I heard the basement door open. I didn't sleep at all that night. The next morning, I Googled missing persons in our county. It didn't take long. The man's face stared back at me from the screen. A photo from better days. Smiling in front of a Christmas tree. His name was Daniel Cooper, 29. Reported missing December 5th by his sister. Last seen leaving a bar downtown. The article said police believed he'd left town voluntarily. I sat there, the glow of the laptop reflecting off the frost on my window, and felt my stomach drop. I considered calling the police. I really did, but I had no proof. Just a look, a voice, a feeling. And December has a way of making you second guess yourself, of telling you to wait until after the holidays, not to make trouble. By December 18th, the smell in the house was worse. It clung to my clothes, followed me to work. I started taking my showers at the gym, because I couldn't stand being in the bathroom. Marjorie stopped coming upstairs altogether. I didn't see her for days, but I heard her, always in the basement. The snow finally came on December 20th. Heavy and wet, turning the town into a postcard. I was scheduled to work overnight, but around 11 p.m., the warehouse lost power, and they sent us home. As I drove back, snowflakes swirling in my headlights, I felt a sense of dread. I couldn't explain. When I pulled into the driveway, the basement light was off. For the first time in weeks, the house was dark. No porch light, no glow from inside. I sat in my car, engine running, snow piling up on the hood, and told myself I was being paranoid. I grabbed my bag and went inside. The door wasn't locked. Inside, the air was cold, colder than outside, and that sharp smell was overwhelming. I heard something then, a soft thumping sound, like someone knocking from far away. It was coming from the basement. I don't know why I went down there. Maybe because December had worn me down. Because I was tired of being afraid. In my own home. I took the stairs slowly, each step creaking. The basement was unfinished. Concrete walls, exposed pipes. The light flickered. As I pulled the chain, Marjorie was lying on the floor. She was on her side, her eyes open, staring at nothing. There was blood, dark and thick against the concrete, already drying. For a moment, I couldn't move. Then I heard the sound again. Thump, thump. It was coming from the far corner, behind a stack of old boxes. I moved closer, my legs shaking. There was a chest freezer there, white and dented. plugged into an extension cord. The lid was rattling slightly. With each thump, I didn't open it. I couldn't. I stumbled back up the stairs, my heart trying to beat its way out of my chest, and called 911. With hands so numb, I dropped my phone twice. The police came quickly, lights flashing red and blue against the snow. They asked me questions, wrapped me in a blanket, kept me from looking. As they took the freezer out, I didn't need to look. I already knew. Daniel Cooper was alive. When they found him, barely. He'd been kept in that freezer for days, taken out just long enough to be fed and begged to behave. Marjorie had been holding him there, convinced he was someone else, someone who'd wronged her decades ago. When he tried to escape, she'd fallen, hit her head, and died alone on the concrete. Daniel didn't make it through the night. December passed in a blur after that. Police tape, interviews, the house empty and echoing. I moved out before Christmas, my things still smelling faintly of bleach. No matter how many times I washed them. Sometimes, when December comes around now, when the nights get longer and the world goes quiet, I think about the careful knock on the door and how close I came to pretending I didn't hear it. December has a way of lying to you. It dresses everything up in lights and music, and tells you the darkness is temporary, that it's warm somewhere if you just keep moving. The December I'm talking about didn't do that. It stripped everything down to bare trees, dead lawns, and early nights that felt like they were swallowing the town whole. I remember thinking, even before everything happened, that the dark was thicker that year, like it stuck to your clothes when you went outside. I was 28, and living alone in a small rental house at the edge of town, the kind of place built in the 70s with thin walls and a long gravel driveway. I worked late shifts at a distribution warehouse, usually getting home around 11. By December, I'd leave for work in the dark and come home in the dark, days passing without sunlight touching anything but my windshield. I didn't decorate for Christmas that year. No tree, no lights. I told myself it was because I was busy, but really, I just didn't want to pretend. The first strange thing happened on December 3rd. I came home to find my front porch light on. I never left it on. The bulb was old and flickered, and I always shut it off to keep bugs from gathering. I stood in my driveway, engine idling, staring at the yellow glow like it was an accusation. I told myself I'd forgotten. I was tired. That was the excuse for everything back then. Inside, nothing was out of place. Doors locked, windows shut. I turned the light off and went to bed. The next night, there were footprints in the snow leading from the road to my porch. One set, heavy boots. They stopped right at my door. No prints leaving. I stood there longer than I should have, my breath fogging the air, trying to convince myself they were old, or maybe mine from earlier. But I knew my own boots, and I hadn't walked that way. I swept the prints away with my foot, like a child trying to erase something scary. I didn't tell anyone. That's another thing December does. It makes you quiet. A week later, the knocking started. Always once. Never repeated. It would come sometime after midnight. A single, solid knock on the front door. Not loud, not frantic, just enough to make sure I heard it. The first time, I froze on my couch, TV murmuring to no one. I waited, heart pounding, expecting another knock. Nothing came. I checked through the peephole. Empty porch. Snow falling straight down. Quiet as ash. I started checking the locks every night. I slept with my phone under my pillow. I told myself it was probably some drunk from the road, or kids messing around. But kids knock more than once. Drunks shout. This was controlled. Patient. On December 14th, I came home and found my mailbox open. Inside was nothing but a folded scrap of paper. No writing. Just blank. Like someone had wanted to leave something, but changed their mind. My hand shook so badly I dropped it in the snow. I stood there feeling watched. The dark pressing in from the trees. The road silent. That night, I didn't turn off the porch light. I started noticing a car parked on the shoulder down the road. Old sedan. Dark color. It was always there when I left for work. Gone when I came home. Then one morning it was there when I came home too. Engine off. Windows dark. I slowed as I passed, trying not to look obvious. I told myself I was being paranoid. December makes you do that too. It gives fear just enough room to feel reasonable. The knock came again on December 18th. But this time it was different. I was already awake. Lying in bed. Staring at the ceiling. The knock was closer. Heavier. And then I heard breathing. Right on the other side of the door. Slow. Calm. Like whoever it was had all the time in the world. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. I don't know how long it went on, but eventually it stopped. In the morning, there was a smear on the door, like a hand had rested there too long. I called in sick the next day. I sat in my kitchen with all the lights on, a bat across my lap, watching the windows as the sun crawled weakly across the sky. Around noon, I heard tires crunching on the gravel. The sedan. It pulled into my driveway like it belonged there. A man got out. Tall. Heavy coat. Hat pulled low. He walked to my door. And knocked. Not once, but 3 times. Daylight made it worse somehow. I could see him through the peephole. Standing perfectly still. Facing forward. Not looking around. Open the door, he said. Voice flat. I know you're home. I didn't answer. My whole body felt numb. Like I'd stepped into cold water. And couldn't move yet. He waited. Then he smiled. I could see it through the warped glass. Slow. And wrong. December's lonely, he said. Thought you might want company. When he left, I collapsed onto the floor and cried so hard I tasted blood. I called the police. They came, took a report, drove around. They didn't find him. They told me to get better locks. Maybe stay with family. I didn't have family close. I stayed. The final night was December 23rd. Snow was falling hard, muffling everything. The power went out around 9. The house went black and silent. I lit candles and tried to pretend it was cozy. Around 10, I heard the knock. Not on the door. On my bedroom window. Slow. Deliberate. I didn't scream. I just knew. I knew he was done waiting. The glass shattered inward. And he came through like he'd rehearsed it 100 times. I fought. I remember screaming. The bat slipping from my hands. His breath hot and steady in my ear. I remember thinking how dark December really was. How it wasn't just the absence of light, but something that moved. That wanted. The police found me alive because a neighbor heard the window break. They found him dead in my hallway. My kitchen knife buried in his chest. They told me later he'd been watching me for months. He liked winter. He liked people alone. December was his favorite. I don't live there anymore. I don't decorate. I don't like the dark. Every December, when the nights get longer, I feel it again, pressing in. And I remember that darkness isn't always empty. Sometimes, it's waiting. December has a way of lying to you. It dresses everything up in lights and music, and tells you the worst things only happen in the dark months of January or October. I learned that lie the year I turned 32. The December my brother disappeared. And I realized how thin the line is between holiday warmth and something cold enough to kill you. It started snowing on December 3. The kind of slow, steady snow that makes the world feel quiet instead of dangerous. I remember because I was standing in the driveway of my childhood home in western Pennsylvania, brushing snow off my boots before going inside, trying to talk myself into being happy about being back. My mom had insisted we all come home that year. Just one normal Christmas, she'd said on the phone, her voice tight, like she already knew it wouldn't be. My brother Eric arrived 2 days later. He was always late, always had some excuse. But when he hugged me, he smelled like cold air and cigarettes, the same as he had when we were kids. Sneaking out behind the garage, he smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. I noticed that immediately. I also noticed the thin cut along his knuckle, half-healed, like he'd punched something or someone. We didn't talk about it. That was our family rule. December was for pretending everything was fine. On December 7th, Eric asked if I wanted to ride with him into town. He said he needed to grab a few things. Last-minute gifts. Maybe a bottle of bourbon. I said yes, because it felt normal, and normal felt safe. The roads were slushy, the sky heavy and gray, and Christmas decorations blinked from porches, like they were trying too hard. He was quiet, tapping the steering wheel with his thumb, jaw clenched. Halfway there, he asked if I remembered the old quarry road. I laughed and said of course I did. That was where kids went to drink and scare each other. He nodded like he'd expected that answer, then said, "Somebody's been using it again." I asked who. He didn't answer. Instead, he pulled into a gas station and bought coffee. We didn't drink. When we got back in the truck, his phone buzzed. I saw the name on the screen. Just a first name I didn't recognize. Eric flipped the phone face down and said he had to make a stop, real quick. I should have said no. That's the thought that comes back every night. But I said okay. The quarry road was worse than I remembered. Snow had piled up along the sides, narrowing it into a single dark ribbon. The trees leaned in close, bare branches scratching the truck like fingernails. Eric parked near the old chain-link gate that had been cut years ago, and told me to wait. He said it'd be 5 minutes. I watched him walk down the road, his shoulders hunched against the cold, his breath fogging the air. The snow muffled everything. No wind, no birds, just silence. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. I texted him. No response. I started to feel stupid sitting there, heart pounding for no clear reason. That's when I heard shouting. Muffled at first, then clearer. Eric's voice, sharp with anger. Then another voice, lower, unfamiliar. I opened the truck door and stepped out, the cold biting through my coat. I called his name. The shouting stopped abruptly, like someone had flipped a switch. I waited. My hands shook. I told myself he was fine, that he'd come back any second, laughing about some stupid argument. But minutes stretched on, and the sky darkened faster than it should have. December days are short, and night comes early, like it's eager. I followed the sound of my own footsteps, crunching in the snow, down the road, past where Eric had disappeared. I found his hat first, lying in the snow, dusted white. Then I saw the tracks. 2 sets of footprints. One clearly Eric's, the other heavier, deeper, circling like an animal pacing. I stopped when I saw the blood. It wasn't much, just a dark stain against the snow. But it felt like the world tilted when I saw it. I called his name again, louder this time, my voice breaking. No answer. I ran back to the truck and drove straight to the police station. Hands numb, vision tumbling. They took my statement, asked calm questions that felt unreal. An officer drove out to the quarry road with me, his flashlight cutting through the dark. They found more blood, a drag mark leading off into the trees. They told me to go home. Searches started the next morning. Volunteers, dogs, state police. The quarry itself was drained years ago, but the pits and ravines around it were treacherous, especially with fresh snow hiding everything. They found Eric's wallet on December 9th, empty, tossed near a rusted piece of machinery. They found his phone smashed beyond use 2 days later. The town changed after that. Christmas lights stayed on, but nobody smiled. People whispered in grocery store aisles. Someone spray-painted murder on the old quarry sign, and it stayed there until spring. The police questioned everyone Eric knew, including me. They asked about his debts, his temper, his job. I learned things I wish I hadn't. About money he owed. About people he was afraid of. On December 18th, a man named Thomas Keller was arrested. He was from 2 towns over, had a record. Had been seen arguing with Eric weeks earlier, over a construction deal gone bad. They found blood in his truck that matched Eric's. The relief I felt was immediate and sickening. Like I was grateful someone else could carry the horror now. But they never found Eric. Christmas came anyway. We sat around the tree, unopened gifts under branches. That drooped like they were tired. My mom stared at the door all night, like she expected Eric to walk in, laughing about a bad joke. I drank too much and listened to the wind outside, convinced every sound was a footstep. Keller eventually confessed. He said they fought, that Eric fell and hit his head on a rock, that he panicked. He said he didn't mean to kill him. He said he'd buried him somewhere deep. He refused to say where. Winter dragged on. Snow covered everything, sealing secrets into the ground. I started dreaming about the quarry road, about following footprints that never ended. Sometimes I woke up smelling cigarettes and cold air, my heart racing. In March, when the snow finally melted, They searched again. They found bones scattered by animals, fragments of clothing I recognized immediately. They called me in to identify what I could. I held my brother's jacket in my hands and felt something inside me finally break. December came back around faster than I expected. The first snow fell, soft and quiet, just like before. I drove past the quarry road one evening without meaning to, my headlights catching the cut gate, the trees standing bare and watchful. For a moment, I thought I saw someone standing there, just beyond the reach of the light, shoulders hunched against the cold. I kept driving. Some December horrors don't end. They just wait for the snow to fall again.